Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
Bismillah.
Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir wa tammim bil khair. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri. Wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. So, welcome everyone to the third session of the Quranic Arabic study group. And inshallah, we will do a quick review of Sura Al-Ikhlas, which is the 112th chapter. And before that, we'll quickly revise the previous surah as well, which we covered last week, which was Sura Al-Falaq, which was chapter 113. And then, as per our format, we can have questions in the middle as well, or more detailed questions towards the end. So let's do the review. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq. Say, I seek refuge in the Lord of the dawn. Min sharri ma khalaq. From the evil of what he created. Wa min sharri ghasiqin iza waqab. And from the evil of darkness when it spreads. Wa min sharri nafasati fil uqad. And from the evil of the blowers in the knots. وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ, and from the evil of an envier when he envies. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. So this was Surah Falaq, which we covered last week, and some of the words that we briefly looked at were the root words fa, lam, qaf, appearing over here. Fa, lam, qaf, and this was being used over here, Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, and it's been used as a noun. As we can see, Al-Falaq is appearing, so Al implies that it is a noun, and it implies sort of a cleaver, or Al-Falaq refers to the splitting of the night from the day. And then Khalaq was used, and there are a number of forms of Khalaq which exist, and in this case it is being used as a noun, khalaqa. And then we had ghain, sin, qaf as the root words for min sharri ghasiqin. So this is also a noun, and it is being used as an active participle. Just as a review, an active participle is one who is as we refer to as ismul fa'il, the one who does, as opposed to a passive participle or ismul maf'ul, the one who is being acted upon. And then waqab, waw, qaf, ba, which are the root words being used here. Min sharri ghasiqin iza waqab, and here it is being used as a verb, as we can see, waqaba, which means he spread or it spreads. Nafasa again was another word, nafasatin, being used as a noun. This is only being used once in the Quran, and the blowers in the knots. And then aqad is al-aqad is the knots used here as a noun, which is the knots in which the blowers are blowing. So that was, and then there is ha, sin, dal, which are the root words of the word min sharri hasidin iza hasad. So hasid again is an active participle, as we can see over here. Let me just try to do this. So hasid is the one who envies, and iza hasad is when he envies. So here it's being used as now as a verb, versus here it's being used as an active participle or as a noun. Min sharri hasidin iza hasad, when the envier envies. So that was a quick review of Surah Falaq, which we did last time. Surah Falaq. And now let's do our surah for today, which is Surah Al-Ikhlas, chapter 112. So, A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul Huwallahu Ahad. Now, Qul we've already seen is from the root words Qaf, Waw, and Lam. And here it's being used as a command, Qul, as a verb form, Qul as in say. And here we've seen that this is a tree of the entire syntax, and it also has some words over here which aren't part of the surah, but it is simply implying what. So when you're saying "pull," you're referring to somebody or something. So it's basically showing that you're saying it to the second person or the person who's in front of you. So anta is the sort of the hidden pronoun. Qul means you're saying say to you, which means anta. So qul huwallahu ahad, and huwa is a pronoun, he, and Allah is being referred to over here. Qul huwallahu ahad, say he, Allah is the one. Now let's take a quick look at the word Allah. We've seen this before. We saw it earlier as Ilah, but this is the first time it is actually occurring in the last three surahs as the full form Allah. So if you look at this, it shows you that the root letters are Hamza, Lam, and Ha. Okay, so notice this is a Hamza, it is not an Alif, as I think we've studied before. And this is the same root word for both Ilah as well as Allah. So these are two nouns which occur. Of course, Allah occurs extremely large number of times, almost 2,000, 3,000 times. And Ilah is a smaller subset occurring about 150 times. There is another form which is Allahumma. So, Qul huwallahu ahad, and this is occurring as a pronoun, as a proper noun over here, and Qul huwallahu ahad. Now, ahad, if you take a look at the words, the root words of ahad, it is Hamza Ha Dal. Okay, Hamza Ha Dal. Again, ahad is not an alif; it is a Hamza. And it occurs 85 times in the Quran, in which the majority of the times it is occurring as a noun. And similarly over here, it is being used as a noun, Qul huwallahu ahad. Okay, and you can see that it is a noun because it has a tanween at the end. Now, ahad is used in a number of ayats in the Quran. So you can see that besides here, Qul huwallahu ahad, and then walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad, it is also used, for example, in a couple of other places that I've shown over here, in Surah 90 and Surah 92, where it is used again as an ahad. فَيَحْسَبُ أَن لَمْ يَرَهُ أَحَدٌ, and وَمَا لِأَحَدٍ عِنْدَهُ مِنْ نِعْمَةٍ تُجْزَى. So you can see, you might recognize this word in other parts of the Quran when you read it. So ahad simply means one or anyone. أَيَحْسَبُ أَن لَمْ يَرَهُ أَحَدٌ. This was the structure of this particular sentence. Qul huwallahu ahad, and again this is the links over here are being shown. I hope that is clear from our past discussions. If there's any confusion, we can discuss that as well. Allahu Samad. Now the word Samad hasn't been used very frequently. So if you look over here, it has only been used once in the Quran, and it means possible translation could be the eternal, the absolute. Although this is from the corpus Quran, and this suggests that there are a whole range of meanings for this word, and this is just one possible translation of the word samad. And as we know that in Arabic, some of the words are extremely have a very large set of meanings, and they're extremely profound as well. So Allah Samad, Allah is the eternal, the absolute, is one way to translate it. Lam Yalid. Now, Lam is a negation, and it occurs before a verb. And as I recall, I believe it normally occurs before a mudare word. So this, as you can see, let's take a look at the root words over here of Yalid, which basically the root words are Waw, Lam, and Dal. Walada is the verb form. Now the question is that how do you know that what is the mudare form? So walada we can see is the mazi form. But the question is, what is the mudare? So can anybody guess what is the mudare of this? So let me help. It could either be yaladu, yalidu, or yaludu. So if you remember, for example, if we have zahaba, the mudare becomes yazhabu, but then the question is it walada yalidu or yaladu or yaludu? And I guess so far we've seen that you can't really say what it is unless you actually know the vocabulary. So if you look at, for example, in the corpus Quran, if I can just open that. So if you look at all the words where, sorry, this is the wrong place. Let me go to the right spot over here. So if you look at all the possible words over here, we might be able to guess what could be the mudare form. So you can see, of course, over here it's being used as lam yalid. So it's not really in the original form walada, and because there's a ya before it, and as we recall that if you have a ya or a hamza or a noon before it, it is most likely in a mudare form. So lam yalid is in the mudare form, but unless you actually look it up in the dictionary, I guess you won't really know what is the mudare form. So from what I recall, it should be walada yalidu. Yalidu. And perhaps we can see that over here as well. So innaka intazarhum yudillu ibadaka wala yalidu illa fajiran kafara, from Surah 71. So just by looking at the different combinations in the corpus, one can actually guess what is the mudare form. So there is a kasra underneath lam, yalidu. Okay.
Mudare is present tense, right?
Yes. So there is mazi is the past tense, and mudare is the present and future tense.
Present, future.
Okay. So mazi and mudare. So so just going into the details of the root letters walada, because it is very popular in the Quran and it's useful to take a closer look at it. So we figured out what the mudare form is. Now, if you look at it over here, it is lam yalid. So yalid we can understand is the mudare form, which means he he does he he go back over here. He does not beget. Okay, it's not he has not begotten, but it is a present or future tense. He does not beget. Okay, and walam yulad. So here it's being used in a slightly different form. So can now somebody try to guess which form is this, and how is it different from this? So both of you can see that both of these are verbs. Okay, but here there's a difference in the the harkat. So you can see that here you have a yalid and here you have yulad. So do we recall what when you have a dhamma over here, what does that imply in the verb? Any recollection? Okay, so let's do a little bit of a review. And let me see, I think I've got a review somewhere over here. So let's just take a look at a normal verbal sentence. Okay, so if you have a normal verbal sentence, if you may recall, you could, for example, if you're saying Dawood killed Jalut, okay, so you would have it in this form, Qatala Daoudu Jaluta. Okay, so this is sort of a revision. Here you can see that here's the verb, and then here is what is referred to as the ismal file or the subject or the doer, the one who's doing. Okay, and the one who is the subject is in a rafa form. Okay, so you can see that it has a dhamma at the end. And the one who's been acted upon, who's being killed in this particular case, is the ismul maf'ul, and that is in the nasab form, which means that there is a fatah at the end. It is not in the rafa form, but in the nasab form. Okay, so I hope this is. Do people recall this format of a normal verbal sentence? Okay, so Qatala Daudu Jaluta. Now, if I was saying, if I was putting it in the passive tense, okay, so this was active. Dalut killed Jalut, Qatala Daudu Jaluta from the previous slide. Now, if you want to say Jalut was killed without mentioning who killed him, okay, without mentioning Daud. So this would be in the passive sentence. So Jalut was killed. We don't know who killed him. All right. In that sense, we are converting this verb, first of all, into a passive form, which is also referred to as majhul. Okay, if you might recall. So this is the majhul form, which basically the difference is that instead of qatala, the harkat change and they become hutila. Okay, so qatala becomes hutila. All right, and that's the passive form. So another change that happens is that the one who's being killed, now earlier the one who was being killed was in the nasab form, okay, Jaluta. But now this becomes naib file, okay, because the file actually is missing. Dawood is missing over here. He's not here. So the one who's being killed becomes the replacement of the file, and it's referred to as naib file. So this becomes Jalutu. In other words, this becomes in rafa form. So two differences between the active version and the passive sentence. In the active verb form is used, qatala. In the passive, the passive form of the verb is used, which is qutila. And the second change is that the one who's being acted upon, in this case Jalut, instead of being in the nasab form, it becomes in the rafa form, Jalutu. Okay, so do people recall this? I know this
Yes,
was
yes,
a while
Alhamdulillah.
since we studied this, but hopefully it's a good revision. And just a quick test. So, for example, if I were saying Hamid ate the food, okay? So I would say Akala Hamidun at-ta'ama. All right. So this is Hamid is the one who's eating, and he's eating the food. So this is in Rafa form, and this is in Nasab form, and this is in active form. So it is Akala. Now, if I were to say the food was eaten, now the question is how would we convert this?
Ukila.
So it would become Ukila. Very good. So this would become Ukila. All right. And this word, and then what would we say over here?
Tamu. Tamu.
At
Atamu.
ta'am,
Mu.
at ta'amu. Very good. So, so I think we've got the understanding, we've got the
Yeah.
recollection that this becomes
Yeah.
ukila, and this becomes at ta'amu. So the food was eaten. Okay. So, and in case you want to just remind yourself, there is a whole passive conjugation which was studied in week 19, which tells you how the word is converted. So fa'ala becomes foila, and so on, for the third person, second person, and first person. So, but I don't want to go into all the details right now. We're simply using foila over here. So let's go back. Um, so we had walada yalidu and lam yalid walam yulad. Now we've seen we've seen that for example akala, or let's say if you have daraba, he hit. Daraba becomes in the majhul sense, it becomes duriba, or he was hit. All right, so this becomes the active and this becomes the passive. But this is both of these are in the mazi form, right? So if you were to use walada here and yalidu, sorry, walada and wulida would be the uh, passive form. But here you can see that it is not in the mazi form; it is in the mudare form. Both of these. So you've got the equivalent in the mudare form, which would be yalida and yulada. Okay, so this is a little bit more tricky, so I'm not going to go into the complete details, but I just wanted to have a quick revision of the mazi in both in its active and passive sentence, and here it's in the mudare version. So you've got lam yalid walam yulad. Allah samad lam yalid walam yulad. Allah, the eternal, the absolute, he begets not, and nor is he begotten. Okay, so you can see that it is in the passive sentence. The one who is begetting is not being mentioned. And lam again is a negation, which is normally used before a mudare form. Walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Again, lam being used before a mudare. Now, do we recall what is the root word of yakun? It's probably extremely popular, extremely common word.
Kun. Kun.
Sorry?
Isn't it kun?
Kun is actually, if you say kun, then that itself is a command. So for example, it's used as kun fayakun. in the Quran, be and it was, kun fayakun. But the actual root, the actual verb, when we normally refer to the verb, we refer to it in its mazi and in its mudari form. So, as I said, I mentioned in one of my earlier sessions, is that whenever you talk about a verb, it's always appropriate to refer to the mazi and the mudari form. So, if I ask you, what is the verb which verb is this coming from? So I'm expecting first the mazi and then the mudari. So the mazi of this is kana,
Oh, con.
and the mudari of this is yakunu. Okay, so this is something that we have to basically learn. For each verb, you basically, once you get to know it, you remember these two forms, kana, yakunu. Okay, this is how you refer to it. And kun would be the imperative from this. So this would be be. Okay, so kana, now what does that mean? Let's take a look over here. So it is derived from the root letters kaf, waw, noon, kon, you might say, and the verb form as we will refer to it is in the mazi form, kana, and they don't tell you what is the mudari form, but hopefully we can figure this out. That is yakunu. Okay, and here it is being used as valam yakun. So here, so let's take a look. I think I've got this properly over here, I hope. Yeah, so if you look at this, it is being used as, this is very, very common, so you'll have to go all the way to the top. So it is being used over here as a verb form. Okay, so this is yakun is the verb form. Walam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad. Okay, and you can see it is used in different parts of the Quran. Yawma yakun an-nasu kal farashi mabsus will be. Now, kana means was, and yakunu would mean is. Okay, because this is the past tense and this is the present. Okay, now this is not a typical verb in the sense that you know, if you're talking about a normal verb, it is indicating an action. But you can see that here it is not really implying an action, right? If you think about zahaba, which means he went, or daraba, he means he hit, or akala, he means he ate. But here, kana is not, you know, it's sort of like he existed, you know, it was. So it's not a normal normal verb, and that's why it's and that's why it's also used very frequently in the Quran and in Arabic. But it's sort of implying that one was, existence was, or is. Okay. Coming back over here, walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. So, and not is for him equivalent anyone. So in other words, there is no one who is equivalent to him. Okay. Walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. And kufuwan, if you look at this particular word, it is only been used in the Quran once, and it simply means equivalent. Walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. There is no one who is equivalent to him. I think the rest of the structure hopefully is clear. If there is any confusion, we can review that. But I hope we understand how kana yakunu is normally used. And it would be useful if we can see how it is also used in the Quran in different ways. So I'll just take a look at some of the ways it is used towards the end, in the surahs of the end. So here it is being used as Walam Yakullahu Kufuwan Ahad. In Surah number 101, it's being used with the Kunul Jibalu Kala al Manfush. I'll make this a little bigger. And here you can see it is Wakanu Yakuluna Aiza Mitna Wakunna Turaba Waizaman Inna Lamabusun Wakunna, it's being used here. Wakanu Yakuluna Aiza Mitna Wakunna.
What about the last but one?
Sorry?
The last but one reference.
You saying go to the last one?
Last but one. The number that was highest.
You mean the last, go to the last surah?
Yeah, the last reference. Yeah.
Okay.
One up.
This one
Just
here?
Kana.
Yeah. فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَاسْتَغْفِرْهُ إِنَّهُ كَانَ تَوَّابًا. Yeah, so فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ, and do praise your Lord. وَاسْتَغْفِرْهُ, and do istighfar from him. إِنَّهُ كَانَ تَوَّابًا. So إِنَّهُ, certainly he was tawwaba. He is the forgiver. So again, this is another way kana is being used.
And then Takunu, the te as what?
Okay, there's a little bit of a, sometimes it's hard to actually do a literal translation. For example, you might say innahu kana tawaba. So this should be past tense, right? Because kana is mazi. But here it's being translated as is, which is present tense. So kana yakunu, depending on how it's actually used in the sentence, depending on exactly how it's being used, it can either refer to the past or it can sometimes also refer to the present. So here it is, and especially when I think it is, and I'm not maybe mistaken, but in terms of Allah Ta'ala, a lot of times kana can refer to the present tense. But sorry, did I answer your question? I'm not sure what you asked.
I was just looking at this example. I don't know. What wasn't a question, I'm just looking at the example.
Okay. Yeah. So kana is occurs quite a lot in the Quran. And then
Means kana can be used as present tense also.
yes. So as you can see over here, innahu kana tawwaba, if you look at the translation over here, it will refer to it in the present tense. So if we look at the translation, indeed he is ever accepting of repentance. It does not say indeed he was accepting of it says is. Okay, so again, Arabic has fairly deep meanings, and sometimes it's hard for us who are very naive, have a very naive understanding of the Quran, of the Arabic grammar, for us to be able to do a literal translation all the time. So that sort of completes the surah. And if I were just to review it again, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad. Say He, Allah, is the one. Allah Samad. Allah, the eternal, the absolute. Lam yalid walam yulad. He begets not, nor is he begotten. Walam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. And not is for him equivalent anyone. In other words, there is no one equivalent to him. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. So that's what I wanted to cover. Now, if there's anything that you want to just review or any questions, we can just go off on a tangent as well and discuss anything else.
Can I ask a question about if you can go to the first slide?
Yeah.
So these arrows, can you just remind us how these work? File, khabar.
Okay, so let's see. So the basically file is basically trying to say that who is the file for this basically is the doer. So essentially what we're saying is say, and who is it that is actually saying? It is you, right? So Allah Ta'ala is speaking to either the Prophet or to us and saying say. So anta is basically the file.
So it's implied.
Yeah, that's implied. It's not there, but it's sort of implied that the one who is being addressed is the file. Okay.
Okay. Khabar, the next one.
And then you have Qul Huwallahu Ahad. So now, if you look at this sentence, so this is okay. So this is I'm not exactly sure about this term badal. This is a new one for me, and I have to figure this out. But if you look at a normal sentence, let's just take a little bit of a review of a normal sentence. And just give me a second. I've got some useful slides over here somewhere. So if you look at a nominal sentence, right? So the khabar, you have, if you want to say the masjid is spacious, okay? So you have al-masjidu wasi'un, right? So al-masjid is a proper noun, and wasi'un is the khabar. Okay, so this is the normal terminology, mubtada and khabar. And mubtada is in a nominal sentence, not a verbal sentence, but in a noun sentence, noun-based sentence, you have the subject and the news. Okay. So now
Khabar is also is khabar like adjective?
No, khabar is not the adjective. That's different. If you're talking about, for example, let's see, if you're looking at this, the adjective sentence, that's a little different. That's not a complete sentence. Okay. Here, basically, you're saying rajulun kabirun, which means this is a partial sentence, which means a big man. All right. So here, man is being being described, and you're simply saying a big man. This is not a complete sentence, right?
Okay.
Here, this is a complete sentence. This is a complete nominal sentence, which basically says the masjid is wide or is spacious. Okay, so you're actually giving, this is some information about the masjid, right? It's not saying a wide masjid. It's saying the masjid is wide. There's a difference.
Okay, so like in English, this word would be adjective, but in this sentence it's not being used as an adjective, it's being used as news. Khabar.
Yes, yes. So you're basically saying that you can use, so in Arabic, actually, there's no such thing as an adjective. Okay, adjectives are actually replaced by nouns in Arabic. Okay. And the noun can be the adjective essentially can be in two forms. It could either come as a khabar, which means it is coming as a proper as a noun form, as a literal noun. The other is that it is coming in as it's referred to as ismul sifat, which means ismul sifat is actually the equivalent of an adjective. in Arabic. It's still an ism. Okay, so ismul sifat, which means something that is describing a noun, is still referred to as an ism. Okay, this is a slight difference between Arabic grammar and English grammar, where adjective is different from a noun, but here it's simply a type of noun.
Okay.
So going back over here, this was a nominal sentence, which is basically saying the mosque is wide, all right, as opposed to saying if I say al masjidu al wasi'u. What's the difference between these two phrases?
I think the second one is a fragment.
Sorry?
It's not a complete sentence.
Yeah, it's not a
Wide
sentence. It's basically an adjective, right? It's ismul sifa, which is saying the wide mosque, versus this is saying the mosque is wide. Here it's saying the wide mosque. Okay, the wide mosque, and this is saying the mosque is wide.
Right. Okay. I remember this.
And that is why this is a khabar. Okay, and this is not a khabar. Okay.
Okay.
Now, when in a nominal sentence you have a khabar, it has to be in it has to come as a tanween. Okay, it has to come as a common noun. Okay, it can't be a proper noun. Okay, so if you can just either remember that or just with practice you'll get better understanding.
Yeah, I remember there were a lot of exercises we had in the class to identify which are the type of sentences.
Right. And of course, if we go on to slightly more complications, you can also have, for example, combining an adjective with a complete nominal sentence. So here it says, this is an example, the man is sitting, ar-rajulun qa'idun. Why do we know that this is a complete sentence? Because this is a common noun. Okay, and this is a proper noun. So if it was al-rajulu al-qa'idu, which means it would be exactly common, everything would be the same as the original noun, then it would be an adjective. But here it is khabar. But now if you want to say the big man is sitting, you would say al-rajulu kabiru al-kabiru qa'idun. So these two are, if you notice, are matching. So whenever you have an adjective, the adjective always matches with the subject. But the khabar, the news, does not match, and it is always a common noun. So this example, hopefully over here, illustrates the difference between an adjective and the news, the khabar part. Is that making sense?
Yes, thank you.